welcome back to another episode of the Drum Corps Coffee Shop podcast. I am Rob, and as always, I'm here with George. What's up, George?
It's hot outside.
It is very hot. We are here in a very hot Southern California, up in the...
I blame Starbucks.
Starbucks?
Starbucks introduced their pumpkin spice lattes early this year, and Southern California decided to reward them with 110 plus degree weather.
There's like pumpkin spice everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like, have you seen pumpkin spice drumsticks yet?
No.
No? Is there like going to be like a hybrid rudiment pumpkin spice, you know?
I hope so.
Oh, man.
Robert, I'm a little disappointed. I was expecting to show up today and to see like a nice big fat drum trophy on on set.
Hey, don't think that I didn't think about like swiping that thing.
You know what you know. By the way, congratulations.
Hey, I appreciate that. And let me just say this. I was like probably like the smallest portion of the part of the Blue Coats staff this year, but if I had contributed at all in their success, then that makes me happy.
Well, obviously, we're super happy for you, super happy for the members, super happy for the alumni. Like the fact that the alumni corps was there, so like a bunch more alumni was around for that. Super happy for Roger.
Dude, Roger,
Tom, yeah. But had to be said. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, you want me to start crying again like I did on finals night? Yeah. But anyways, it was a good season. I'm glad I got to be there at the end and spend a little bit of time on the road with those guys.
And for me, it was a really fun season because this year I made the concerted effort to go out and actually like go to some smaller shows on tour. Like I flew out. I think I was just kind of feeling it when we were back.
Yeah. And then we both went to San Antonio to preview.
Yeah. But I was just like, you know what? Instead of waiting after all the Southern California shows, waiting until Indy and just sort of watching groups on video, I actually wanted to go out and see groups live at all the small shows, and really really get that full tour sort of experience. And actually, one of the first groups I went to go out to see, which sort of helped me decide like which shows to go to this year, was Colts.
Yes.
Drumline.
And, from early on in the season with those early videos that came out, we were like hyping them up.
And we know, especially like when you make lot videos, what you realize really fast is, or what becomes super apparent to you is what groups sound like in person does not necessarily translate to video. Because, I mean, you know what it was like to stand in front of them, and then you go and you edit the video and you're like, I don't know if that sounds like, but some of the early videos that got posted of them were great. I was totally buying what they were selling, and they were sort of in the mix competitively, and so we were like, oh, Colts. And when I saw that they were at a show with Blue Coats earlier in the year, I was like, I'm doing it. Yeah. So I went to Rockford and just showed up and just started recording, and they were great. And but that's a nice segue into who we have on the show today.
Our guest today, yeah. As a matter of fact, when we went to San Antonio, I made it a point I made sure I got there early because I wanted to see the Colts, and I met their percussion captain head, Mr. Josh Nelson, who's here with us today. Josh, welcome to the coffee shop.
Welcome to the coffee shop.
Thank you for having me.
Do you realize that there was a lot of people hyping you guys up? Like I run a social media page, the Drum Corps Coffee Shop on Facebook, and it's the Facebook page is mostly a lot of the older generation, and we would sit and we'd wait for those scores, and when those scores would drop, and we'd see the Colts, just taking out lines that traditionally they don't take out. Everybody was really hyping on that,
Oh, it felt good, and I think it was a nice to be able to. We came on board, my staff, for the 2020 season, so we got hired in 2019. So when everything got canceled in 2020, the Corps still kept us involved, and we kind of we pivoted to like a online kind of camp lesson kind of thing through that summer, and then pushed it into last 2021 season, the kind of shorter version. In some ways, it was pretty refreshing just to put it together in just 6 weeks and do it like that. But all that work that we kind of just kept the ball moving did help us going into 2022 this summer. And it was nice to have some kids that have been kind of vested in the program. And I really had a team that's kind of established as far as how we're going to do it, how we like to operate. And the kids bought in. I thought the full drum corps was extremely hard work, and we had not necessarily a goal to make finals. It's tough to say that, right? When you hadn't made finals in 15 years, you don't want to say it out loud, but you also don't want to not expect that and have that expectation, and kind of put that effort towards that, because it's not the end all be all, but it's why you do it.
But it gives you something tangible. You know, that at least you can just be like, okay, here's a little bit of a measuring stick. I will say that, so I went out to Indy in 2021, and anybody who knows me and talked to me about that experience knows that the one sort of takeaway I had from that was groups like yours, groups like Crossman, I want to say, stuck out to me, even like Blue Knights, how I could see that a foundation was being laid with all of those groups. And to me, that was particularly impressive with the shortened amount of time that you guys had. I could just see that it was like fundamentally something was being established with all of those groups, you know, and it seems to have paid off, you know, this year.
For sure. And let me be, you know, I forgot to say this initially. Congratulations on making finals with the Colts.
Yep.
I mean, that's hard, you know. That's one of the hardest things is probably making finals, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then staying in finals is another hard part.
I know what it's like to not make finals for the first time.
Unfortunately, I know what it's like to not make finals too. And as a matter of fact, the core that knocked us out was the Colts in '93.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. So it's hard. I mean, I say this tongue in cheek. It's hard to be happy for the Colts because they knocked us out, and I'm still kind of bitter. 30 years later, but. You know, I'm happy. I'm very happy for you guys, and it was exciting to watch you guys.
And what's nice on a lot of the videos and stuff like that got posted of you guys was just seeing how much the alumni would pipe in, and you know, just because they were super proud, you know, of what you guys have accomplished.
We evolved to a certain point of having memes, and so that was funny to us, at least on the ground, and it gets the kids excited when they see, because no matter what, they're gonna look at the videos themselves. Sure. and see what people say, and it's you know, you try to make sure that they understand it's not the end all be all, but that's just what they do. It's part of the world and how they're connecting, and no, it was a good season. A lot of benefits to now having all these cores that have gone through a full season again. Now we have all these kids that are able to kind of keep the activity moving, and only bright things ahead, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like another treat for me with your guys' line this year was, you know, we follow the winter stuff, and I follow like Bakersfield College, and I'm watching you guys, and I'm like, hey, the girl in the snare line looks like she's from the Bakersfield College line, and to come to find out, I guess that it was I think it's her name, Kenya, I want to say. Yeah. And we both sat here and wondered, how did she end up in the Colts? Do you know how she ended up there by chance?
So there, as the season was kind of getting started, or really we were like that February, March kind of area. Whenever Spirit ended up not fielding the core, that's where we scooped up a couple kids from that, and she was one of them. I think she was just kind of looking for a more permanent home, but we ended up having kids from all over the place. We had a kid from Quebec, Canada, and a lot of kids from Texas, as you might expect.
Well, I'm sure recruiting will you know, get a little bit of a boost this year, hopefully, with regards to like you guys being, you know, getting that visibility and stuff. And here's the other thing I will say is I'm not lying. This isn't hyperbole when I say I was really buying what you guys were selling with regards to the beats themselves, the vibe, the attention to detail, the cleanliness, all of that. I was just like, and then because I had not met you at that point, like, and I realized, and this is something we hadn't mentioned yet, but I realized you also, have been working forever with Music City Mystique, and
Yep.
and I didn't have that connection, but MCM also, anybody who knows me knows that I have like this sort of abnormal affinity for what MCM does. I'm always buying the beats, the vibe, like all of that stuff every year.
And on the MCM vibe,
Yeah.
when we kind of found out that you were the MCM guy, I remember going to San Antonio, and this might sound funny to you, but I was like kind of nervous because
Sure.
for a lot of us, the MCM, there's like a vibe of MCM, like the mystique of it, Music City Mystique, So I didn't know if like you were gonna be like, get the heck out of here, or you're gonna be like, no, come on. I don't know if you understand kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah. But I thank you for being nice to me and letting me get close to record the line in San Antonio.
No, absolutely. And it having that air about it, I guess from the outside, it's good and bad, right? We don't want to be unapproachable.
Sure.
But so I try to take it as a compliment, but I also make sure that we don't, come across just weird as far as like, or unapproachable, maybe a better way to say it. So yeah, and I am the director of Mystique, so I actually don't write the beats for either one of these groups, but I'm really the producer and and just kind of keeper in liner guy. But yeah, as far as just having a similar kind of vibe, I guess is I have a lot of what's cool for me. I aged out in 2002 of drum corps. And I started, I was in Mystique as a member, and I was on staff for a couple of years. And really young, I became the director. I think I was 25.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a long road, a lot of learning, and a lot of just kind of, building a team really. And I'm fortunate to have a lot of my alumni and past members as both part of the drum and pit staff, as well as the visual staff. Our visual coordinator, Jack, our visual caption head at Colts is a person I've worked with a bunch, and he's a former cymbal guy at Mystique. And it's cool for me to kind of see my coaching tree, as it were, and seeing my former students get a chance to teach. And really at Colts, we're just trying to build a winning attitude, a championship kind of pedigree, to where the expectations are higher. And something that I thought we did well this summer was that we had a pretty decent quality of sound, like you were saying. Like we had our issues, just like any group. But I think the focus became pretty clear, and I don't want to undersell the kids' work ethic and the staff's work ethic, just to make sure that happened. And it takes a lot of good teachers and a lot of good people to make it all happen.
Well, I think like nowadays we live in an era where there's plenty of videos, there's plenty of content that's put out, and it kind of makes it a little bit too easy to sit back and sort of just judge that and like assess that and have an opinion about that. One of the reasons why we like having people like you on is because I think everybody knows there's so much more to it, right? So much more hard work and sweat and behind the scenes things to create that little, snapshot that people get to see either in the lot or on the field. And my thing is, I really, really am a fan of the work. I would much rather go to rehearsal. and just see you guys see like how you clean just that one little section. Spend an hour just like cleaning that one little thing. How you break it down, like all of that stuff. And so we really appreciate that you came on, because it's like both Colts and Mystique, they're highly visible groups, right? But again, it's like you just sort of get this like isolated picture, this nice shiny little picture of like the final product, versus getting a real glimpse and a better sort of rounded out picture, of everything.
And of how you got there.
Right.
Like you mentioned.
Let's go back.
Yeah, you mentioned you aged out in 02. Let's go back to the beginning and let's hear your story a little bit, like how you became a fan of the activity before you got into it. Are you from Tennessee? Is that where you grew up?
I'm originally from Lynchburg, Virginia, which is kind of south central Virginia, and I went to just kind of a normal high school. Had a really strong band directors. That just had a good culture, and then they hired, really strong people to help out. My first main drum instructor is named Alan Joannis, and he was in Cadets '93, and in a couple.
That's a good line.
Yeah, those are good, great line. Yeah.
And he was super relentless as far as just helping me get a good start. He drove us to our first drum corps shows. He would borrow my parents' van, and he took us to auditions for Crossman when I was in high school, and ended up marching in '97 for Crossman.
97 was
awesome.
Hannum?
Yeah, it was Hannum and Collins' first year there. So that was just kind of good luck for me as far as just like being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. How were you even taking that in as like as a high school kid, having this instructor from, like, you know what I mean? It's like I can sort of remember back to being that young and having a very sort of wide-eyed view of all of this other stuff that was happening. How were you taking it all in? Were you like, did you feel well prepared for it, or were you just like, what is this? Like, what are we doing?
To a degree, I think I had an idea. Like in high school, when we had a certain work ethic, but then going to these Crossman camps, again, I think I was 15.
Wow.
And it was more just something that I just persisted with. I just kept going back to every camp, and you end up in the group, and that staff, pretty tremendous staff. Looking back on it, it had a huge lineage. It was it's Tom Hannum, Colin McNutt.
Was
Brian
Nick Angelis
Tinkle.
there too?
He wasn't that first year. No.
Okay.
It was Brian Tinkle, Andy Smith.
Oh yeah.
Jim Ancona. So there was a lot of people that ended up being caption heads or designers. But it was pretty relentless, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, you learn real quick, and you be quiet. And I think that was the highest place in Crossman ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we ended up 4th in drums and 6th overall. So getting that kind of start was invaluable, as far as it's like I couldn't have asked to see how to work harder, or like that we were doing that. And being young, I was playing cymbals at the time, and you just learn by trial by fire, and just having that start, I think was really what kickstarted me as far as just being more focused into this. And that was when I'm sure I grew up 10 years during that one summer, and that kind of set me on a better path, just again with focus. I think that's for a lot of people. Drum corps gives them that ability to work with a big focus, and how to be as part of a team, and be more selfless, and all those good things I did. I learned the hard way, but definitely learned them.
Did you stay in Crossman after that, or did you go anywhere else?
Well, I ended up marching in a few different places. I didn't march that next summer. And then when I graduated high school, that same high school instructor that I told you about, Alan Joannis, he ended up becoming the caption head at Blue Coats in '99.
Oh, okay.
And so we ended up there, and that's when I ended up marching with a bunch of Mystique alumni. They were in the group as well. Alan had recruited a bunch of them. I had already kind of planned to want to march there. I went to school halfway in between Mystique and where I grew up, on purpose at East Tennessee State. So at that point, I was marching Mystique that next year, and I marched Blue Knights the 3 years after that.
Okay.
So 99, I marched Blue Coats, and then I ended up filling a hole late in 2000, which I think that was Blue Knights' best year ever.
So Ralph was there at the time still, correct? Yeah,
yes. And so that was awesome. So I got to learn under Tom Hannum, Colin McNutt, Ralph Hardiman.
Yeah, how about that?
Some big names, people with their own sticks and all that kind of stuff. So that was.
I was gonna say, if there's a Mount Rushmore of like DCI drum instructors, those two are definitely on it.
For sure. So yeah, getting to be a part of a Ralph line was awesome. I met my wife marching Blue Knights, and really at Ralph always had a barbecue for the group in right before, like, a Memorial Day time, and that's where I met her. So, but yeah, just kind of grew up. I think I marched. I guess that's 5 years of drum corps. So, kind of putting all that time in. I'm paying attention to a lot of things. I fit into drum corps perfectly. Like that was my world, and to be able to still teach it, 20 years later, after aging out, it's pretty awesome for me. And to give back and to hopefully be able to be as approachable to those members and give them a great experience. But at the end of the day, everybody wants to be good at this, right? So it's you got to be able to know how to work hard and work smart, and everybody does the same amount of time of hours. It's
just what you do with it.
No. Were you like the rest of us? Probably? Let me speak for myself. Were you like me, where if there hadn't been an age out, you would have just kept trying to march forever just because you loved doing it so much?
I was able to put it away personally, but what I have probably. I needed to be able to kind of move on to the next thing, and I'm not necessarily sure I missed it after the fact. Being on staff was awesome because you still got that same camaraderie, you still got to work, and like you said, I also like the rehearsal part. Like for me, like the rehearsal is the best part. Going to the show is fun, but I get so nervous, and it's like I'm about to explode on the inside most of the time. Whole shows, just because like I can't do anything, but I can. All my work was done at that point, but it's cool to be able to see the culmination of it every time.
Yeah.
When you think back to learning from all of those guys, like sticking with the performance aspect or the time as a performer a little bit, have you thought about what exactly was instilled in you from learning from those guys? I mean, obviously they have tons of knowledge and experience. But what was the thing that stuck, that really imprinted on you, do you feel like, during that time?
Probably just it's either right or wrong as far as like when you're playing something, it's black or white. Did you play it right? Awesome. And that's right. Did you play it kind of right? No, then that's wrong. And that, I don't know if relentless is the right word, but like, for quality. I think that was, especially from the Crossman days, there was just such a higher level of expectation than I had been exposed to at that point. And they have a real unwavering, like you're going to do it that way. And you're going to get this particular sound, and we're going to do it enough times to where you're going to get that.
Well, that's not, it's like that's something, a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, Eric Vargo, marched, he marched, under Hannum and he marched with Colin, like at UMass and stuff like that, but he marched Star. And what you just said is actually something that I feel like a lot of people don't fully appreciate, which is when you say the word quality, right? And when you talk about sound, right? Knowing exactly what that is. And I know that was a big deal for Hannum, right? Is knowing, like, you have to know when you're doing it, and for a lot of people, I feel like even today, right? I think for a lot of kids, it can still be a little bit ambiguous, where they're not sure. It's like, is this it or this? Or do you want me to do more of this? So I can really appreciate that sort of like, yes, do it that way. No, that's not it,
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, especially drum corps, where there's so many benefits as a performer, where you're getting so many more reps and you're getting so many more chances at getting it right. And then the best part about it, unlike WGI, you get a bunch of chances to perform. Like, you get a chance just to kind of go through the emotions with a pre-show, warm up, all those, the lot, all that kind of stuff. Where WGI, maybe do it 7 or 8 times at most.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have the time to get in the same kind of groove that you do. But